Welcome to today's Instagram Live. It's a beautiful, almost spring March day here in Toronto, and I will be joined today with my lovely artistic director, Susanna Fournier, who will reintroduce herself when she's on the call. Hi guys, thanks for joining. Today we're going to be discussing our Introduction to On-Camera course, which is our most essential course, because it is the foundation of everything that we teach at the studio. And I see Susanna has joined here, so I'm going to invite her in and we'll get started, dive right into the content today. The internet.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, it's the sun is shining. I'm full of hope.
I was saying that I had to look. The first day of spring is, I think, this week.
It's
Next week.
soon.
Oh,
It's
it's the
soon.
20th. Yes. No, I was saying it's a beautiful Monday to hop on and get into some foundational elements of our intro course at the studio.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess for folks just joining us, if you don't know me, I guess we'll kick it off with some introductions. I'm Susanna Fournier. I'm the artistic director at Armstrong Acting Studios. I'm also one of our resident coaches, and I lead all the advanced level, masterclass level classes, as well as design curriculum and training for all our levels of training at the studio.
Yes, wonderful. And for those of you that don't know, I'm Sarah Gnocato. I am studio owner. I'm also a resident coach. And I'm really excited to, whenever I have a chance to chat with Susanna, it's always a great opportunity. So I say we dive right in. We have some questions. We got a lot to go over.
Let's do it.
So Susanna, if I can just have you kind of kick it off for us in terms of, for those of you just joining and newer to the studio, what is Introduction to On-Camera Performance? What is this course?
Intro to On-Camera Performance, or as we'll probably just short form it for the rest of the live, IOC is definitely how we refer to this training session. This is an absolute fundamental course for total beginners. So this is a training session, a kind of classroom setting you can go to if you have, one, never acted before, like ever, and are curious about like what is an actor's job, how does it work, what is an audition, what goes into that, what is acting itself. Like we see actors all the time, but we might not know like what are the behind the scene details of that job, how does it work, how do they learn their lines, all these things. So if you've absolutely never acted before but want to try, it's a training program that will introduce you to the absolute fundamentals of acting itself, how to build a performance. You'll find out about all the terminology, all the language, what are sides, scripts, material, casting, like who does what in that process. And the specialty of this course, and because Armstrong is an on-camera specific acting facility, will be introducing you to, yes, the basics of acting, but also how to locate your performance within the cinematic frame. So what makes acting for camera different than, let's say, acting in musical theater or acting in a play or acting on Broadway? It's all acting, but each medium has some very specific kind of rules and techniques that are going to enhance the performance coming through in that space, right? Like if you're in a 2,000 seat theater, you're going to need slightly different skills than if you're preparing for an indie feature that's filming with like one camera in a studio setting.
Yeah.
So it's basically like 101 for acting in the context of acting for film or for television. Yeah. So you'll learn things like how to do text analysis, like what is text analysis? How do you pull information from a script? And then that can inform your choices on how to prepare an audition, how to portray a character in a scene. Yeah, so it's the absolute like 101s, and it's a really like joyful class because the class is always filled with discovery because everyone is starting from the same place. Everyone is coming in as a beginner. So you'll learn text analysis, as I just said. You'll learn the lingo that's used in the industry so you can be familiar with what a casting breakdown is, what a character breakdown is, how to read those for information, what are sides. You'll learn what goes into an on-camera audition, whether or not that is an in the room audition, i.e. you're actually going somewhere and reading with other people live, or what's much more common practice now since the pandemic is how to prepare a self-tape audition, which is basically what the industry is using now. So you'll come away with an intro look for all the tools you would need if you wanted to, one, go into the profession of acting, or if you're just curious about it and have always wanted to try it, but you don't necessarily imagine yourself doing it professionally. So it's for both people, really.
I love how Susanna said 101 repeatedly, because I think it's the most key thing you said. I think there's a lot of, I find in the studio, people come in and they're like, I don't know what this thing is at all. I have absolutely no experience. I need the basics. And it's this thing of, they feel it takes a lot of courage to get up on camera, and they feel like there's something wrong. They don't know the most basic foundational elements. And this class, to your point, is like, you don't have to know anything other than you want to try it out, whether that's to gain confidence in your workplace, see if you like acting, you want to pursue a full career in TV and film. It like really covers everything. And it's the point of it being fun is so great because everyone's all on the same level, figuring it out together. So wonderful.
Yeah, and I think we could expand even on like, who this course is for, because I think, I think sometimes people exclude themselves from thinking they're eligible to take this training program because they've never acted before. But actually, that's like I would say, who is it for? It's for absolutely anyone. And I think, Sarah, you can speak to how we've also included it for our youth clients as well. Do you want to expand on just like from your take, who this course is for and how many different age ranges we have it in?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so it is for literally everybody because there is no prerequisite. We're all coming in at an entry level. Now, we have recently introduced this in our youth categories as well for our 13 to 15 age range in our youth courses, and 16 to 18. Introduction on camera was previously exclusive to adult classes, which are 19 plus. But it's nice at the younger levels to kind of come in and not just assume that we're at, let's say, like a core one, a level one. We have the basics, but now we want to expand on our knowledge. It's like kind of giving more of an opportunity to the youth who have never done this and are a little, curious about it or hesitant about trying it. And it just kind of opens it up to more, I don't know, more of the population.
Yeah.
It's more accessible.
And I would say in terms of adults, like 19 plus, we have had folks in this class who are 19. We've also had folks in this class who are in their 70s. So you're thinking, oh no, like I'm retired, I'm in my 60s, this isn't for me. No, it absolutely is. We absolutely love the diverse age range of folks who are taking this training program. We train a lot of folks who are like, oh, English is my second language, like I'm not sure if I can do this. No, you can. Like a lot of our clients training with us are also ESL. And we have folks who are like, I'm a dentist, I'm a lawyer, like they don't really want to pursue acting, but they've always been curious about it, or maybe like decades ago they did a school play and they really loved it. And so this gives people the opportunity to explore acting, flex their creative muscles, take risks, try new things in a very low stakes environment, in a really supportive environment. And something I think that is unique about this training program is also because it's introductory, because it's beginner, it's half the length of our normal training sessions at the studio to give you the opportunity to see if you like acting, right?
Yeah.
Like without like a full 12-week time investment or financial investment, we offer the IOC training programs at half the length and also like around half the cost, so that if couple training sessions in, you're like, wow, I don't know, maybe this isn't for me. It's again low stakes. It's a lower investment on your part, and I think that also is what allows people more freedom to figure out if it's something they want to pursue and how deeply they want to go in the work.
Yeah, and I love what Susanna just said. I know we were chatting earlier, Susanna, kind of about, we have daytime and evening options, and we'll get into the upcoming term and like new release of this course that's coming up the next couple of weeks. But it's often twice a week with our adult courses. So it's not even a 6-week commitment. It's a 3-week commitment, twice a week, 6 sessions. And then for our youth, it is once a week just to accommodate life and school and scheduling. But yeah, it's just like a little taste of, do you want to put yourself out there, see how you feel about it? And if acting is something you want to pursue professionally as a hobby, or do you just feel like you can gain those public speaking tools in front of a camera, which is, for me, that's like, if you can do that, you can really walk into your next meeting room and own that, because being on camera, memorizing a script can be the thing that feels more nerve wracking, but it definitely does build that public speaking confidence, right?
Yeah, and a question that we get around like who is this course for is folks who have been to theater school. We have a lot of folks writing in like, okay, I did a BA in acting at this university or this conservatory. Is this course right for me? And what I would say to folks who have completed a theater school training program, or who have, let's say, maybe done amateur theater for a number of productions, have kind of been acting in different places. In that instance, I would suggest that you send us a tape, because again, this course looks at 2 things: how to build a performance, the absolute basics, and then how to locate it within the frame. If you've already been building performances throughout your undergrad training in a theater school setting, then actually you already have a firm grasp of the fundamentals, and it might just be about translating your work in theater to the film medium. So in that case, I would say send us a tape, get in touch with us. I'll review your tape, or Sarah will review your tape, and we'll be able to probably put you in a core 1 or a core 2 level of training, because those levels come with the expectation that you do already know a bit about script analysis, how to build an audition, how to interpret a character. So we want to make sure that you're adequately challenged. So if you have training, previous experience with acting in theater or whatever, definitely just get in touch with us, and we want to be able to make sure that we're putting you in the training program that's going to challenge you enough and really just tweak that skill of translation.
Yeah, 100%. And off that kind of, Susanna's throwing around some really great vocabulary that, if you're watching this and you're going, I don't know what we're talking about, even going back to the beginning when Susanna mentioned sides, for example, this is definitely where we need to be at, this course, which kind of leads me into what people always ask: what am I essentially doing in this course?
Yeah.
What is required of me? And we do treat in our introduction class, just like the rest of our core foundational classes, treat it like a mock audition. We assign sides, which are audition scripts, 48 hours in advance, because we like to keep it industry standard. And it's nice to challenge yourself in a timely manner so you don't overthink too much, but you find that balance. And we're actually assigned
like 1 or 2 pages. It's not going to be like a whole script.
Yeah, so it's a very short audition script, and basically they're always sourced from professional TV and film, whether that be casting now, recently cast, something that exists on your television today, but you're looking at the actual audition sides now that we can use that word for it. So we source our material from what we do, which is actual TV and film projects. And yes, to Susanna's point, definitely explore different material throughout the course, but we're not overwhelming you with a 7-page monologue. We are really just coming at it with, a shorter script, just to kind of use it as a vehicle to learn the tools, which is the point. It's not about mastering the material we do, but we do assign it to use it for learning foundational tools. So you prepare that.
And this is, yeah, you prepare that. And I think what is so exciting also about working on really timely and relevant material is you might get the chance to work on material from a show that you're actively watching now. You're not going to be stuck in that situation where you're looking at a script that's like 50 years old, kind of out of date, kind of not what people are talking about, not really relevant to like what's happening culturally now. So it's very important to us that at any level of training, you are working on competitive and relevant material, so that if you do decide you want to pursue acting more seriously and keep training, then you're going to be really familiar with like what is casting now, what are the trends in casting now, and what is the kind of material that is being actively worked on, so that you're training towards the actual industry reality and not kind of archaic, like sort of texts that all have lots to offer, but potentially not helpful for you if you are looking to be an auditioning working actor in Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. And, kind of off that, I know I've been asked a lot, oh, who teaches your introductory courses? And just like, we'll kind of get to how we approach the work, but we have a wonderful, well-rounded faculty, and everybody is in the industry, actively working actors. So to Susanna's point, we really do keep it as relevant to, luckily we live in, a time that's more diverse, and definitely things have changed in the past, even pre-pandemic in this industry. So we really are coming at it from the most relevant standpoint. So I'm glad you touched on that.
I also wanted to invite in, who is this course for? Who is this training program for? I have a lot of friends in different industries. Maybe they did some acting in high school. Now they've gone on, they're teachers, they're lawyers, they're dentists, they're working in public policy, but they're still looking for a more creative outlet in their lives. They're looking to build their creativity. They're looking for something fun and different to do with their off time. And so I want to really, invite folks who maybe have no desire to become a professional actor. That's not what you're looking for, but you are curious about exploring yourself as a performer. You're curious about maybe returning to something that you used to do a long time ago that you enjoyed, that gave you a sense of like risk taking and freedom and fun and thrill. So what's great about IOC is there's no pressure that you have to professionalize this or you have to pursue it. We have folks, one of my favorite stories was learning that we had a married couple taking IOC who were looking for kind of a fun date night with each other and love the course, and aren't going on to become professional actors, but they were looking for something fun and special and challenging and something they could share. And because everyone is an absolute beginner in these training programs, there's such an atmosphere of support, and like everyone has so much skin in the game because everyone's like, I've never done this before. Mm-hmm. So there's that equalizing factor that everyone is taking these risks together and trying new things, and absolutely everyone is being brave and like stepping a little bit out of their comfort zones. And because our faculty and our instructors know that this is like, to get up and act in front of a camera is an incredibly vulnerable and thrilling and like exhilarating and sometimes terrifying thing to do. Our focus is really cultivating an atmosphere where people feel encouraged to take risks. No one is expected to know more than they know. And so when I get to sit in on IOC classes, I'm always so moved by the wonderful spirit of support that carries through in the class. There's also like, it's a great way to meet new people. It's a great way to build community. We have friends who sign up and take the classes together. We have folks who are all complete strangers when the class begins, and then by the end of the training program, they have a group chat and they're going out for drinks and they're going to see movies together, and they're building and taking part in the wonderful community of actors and creatives that we have coming to the studio all the time. So again, even if you're just looking for something to challenge yourself, to build some more confidence, to step outside of your comfort zone, I really, really, really recommend checking out these training programs for IOC, because they bring a beautiful sense of community and joy into your life, whether or not you want to be professionally auditioning or not. Acting is for everyone.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. And then, often to your point, people will sign up and they just want to try it, and then maybe they fall in love with the creativity of it, even if they don't decide to pursue it professionally. And it's a great foundation that just, again, like kind of helps teach the language that we use at the studio. We're all on the same page as a faculty, despite all approaching the work with our own tools. And it's kind of an accessible option if you do decide to move forward. So we're giving you this smaller taste before you sign up to 12 weeks. So I think it covers everything, and I'm really glad you touched on that. Now, something that I think a lot of people consider when it comes to this is what is more beneficial if I'm starting out, one-on-one training or group classes. And I feel like the question sometimes kind of can come from, I'm a little scared to be in front of a group of people. Maybe I'll just do it one-on-one for a bit. How is that different? And I will say, to Susanna's point, there is something about in the first IOC class when everybody gets through their first pass, there's just like this collective breath, and it's like the great equalizer of, oh, we were all scared of this, and now it's like, oh, cool, we're all here together. This is a shared moment, and it is a beautiful community moment, and there is wonderful spirit. Now, you don't get that obviously in a one-on-one session in the same way. One-on-one sessions are, they're tailored to the actor. They are one-on-one with a coach. You are reading with the coach. You are alone with the coach. The difference is, for me, especially when you're coming at it from a introductory level, is first of all, it's more time and cost effective just to do the IOC 6-session course, honestly. It's a great way to try it. But additionally, the benefit of group training at any level is that you get to watch your peers, you get to see other actors in the frame, and you're training that critical eye. So in all of our studios, we have monitors. You're watching, we have the HD camera on the actor. You're not watching them here, because if you're watching them from the audience, it looks like they're doing nothing. You watch them on the monitor and you're seeing the actual work within, to Susanna's point, the cinematic frame. Now, in watching other actors, you are learning not only more about the craft itself. It's not uncommon that you're watching and you're like, oh, we're doing the same scene, but I never thought about opening it in that way or doing it in this way or whatever, right? Like, it opens up kind of your eyes to other things in the creative process, but also it just naturally trains your critical eye, because you do go home and you do have the footage from the class of your own work, and you do watch your own work. And if you're used to watching others, you can kind of approach looking at your own work from a constructive place. When it's yourself, it's difficult sometimes to just look at it for the work itself, right?
Oh,
So
hates watching their own
yes.
work. Like, any who's like, except some of our youth clients who, bless, they're just like totally overjoyed to watch their own work. And I'm like, I need to be more like you. A lot of our adult clients, the first thing people do when they see their own footage is kind of like, we're overly critical of ourselves always. We're the harshest critic typically. But it's really important that you be able to get over that, or just be like, okay, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Sometimes I don't love watching, or is that what my voice sounds like? Or why is my eyebrow like that? Whatever. But to kind of move beyond that and develop, as you said, a constructive sense of feedback, a generous sense of feedback, so that rather than getting all hung up on like, something about your hair, which no one else is noticing, by the way, just you're actually starting to watch it as you watch a movie, as you watch television, for story, for character, for action, and that is going to always help you be able to connect. How does it feel on the inside when you're executing the work versus is it translating? Because every single training session, someone goes, oh, I thought I was doing that, but now that I'm watching, it doesn't look like I'm doing that at all. So we have to start getting familiar with how it feels on the inside versus how it translates on the outside, so that we can narrow the gap between what we think we're doing and what the camera's actually picking up.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And that's just going to give us more understanding of our technique and our camera technique. So we want to introduce that right at the beginning, so that folks are starting to develop that critical eye, as you said.
Yeah, and what I'll add on to that as like a final point is, so it's kind of like a two birds, one stone situation, by way of, you're watching other people, you're training your critical eye, you're going to go home and watch your own, you're learning from other people. But I will also say, it has happened, we talked about living the self-tape reality mostly, but we used to go in the audition room, and callbacks often exist in audition rooms or on Zoom. And I've had it happen where I've walked in and there's 7 people at a callback. And if I'm just used to working one-on-one with somebody and I'm very comfortable with that coach, obviously, which is wonderful and ideal, when I get in front of a panel of 7 people at a real audition, or if you're coming to build public speaking confidence and you walk into a meeting room, or just to meet new people and be out in the world, and you're in new situations, if you're used to getting up and being brave on that mark, because it does take courage to get up in front of the camera, then everything else I feel is a breeze, as opposed to sometimes when we're reliant on just one other person looking at our work, it can feel overwhelming when it comes to more than that.
Than being in a group setting. And even just what you said, like getting up on that mark terminology you'll learn in IOC, where you're supposed to stand. But even for some folks to just stand in front of a room full of people who they know are looking at them, to be able to find their grounding, to learn skills and actual techniques to make sure they're breathing, to feel like they can stand there with confidence and not be like, you know, I mean, we're all sweating, right? Like everyone's sweating. You don't have to worry about being the only actor who's like sweating with the nervous sweats. But even if what you come away with after IOC is a feeling of greater confidence, taking command of the space, allowing yourself to be seen and heard, understanding how to find relaxed and confident body language when you feel nervous, like even just being able to confront your own nerves and how they operate and execute on your body, I think is a huge gain and skill that is going to help you in every aspect of your life. So, you know, that's why, again, I don't think acting is just for people who want to be actors. It's a chance for you to get more familiar with how you are, how you present yourself in the world, how you would like to feel when you're in a public setting, or, you know, leading a room, if you're a teacher, if you're working in the corporate sphere, if you're someone who has to do presentations, developing that sense of your performance confidence is going to help you, you know, in any situation, having a difficult conversation with a loved one, being able to assess how you're feeling and how you want to come across. These are like endlessly applicable, translatable skills that are not just for acting, but they're for allowing yourself to be the best version of yourself in whatever setting you happen to be in that could be stressful for you.
Oh yeah, so much of it translates into life. Yes, that's a very good point to hit on. Now, do you want to kind of get into, I don't know, kind of how, in terms of the studio structure, we're talking a lot about how this is an accessible course to everybody, which is absolutely true. But we do, you know, for those who are kind of coming at this being like, I might want to pursue, or I do want to pursue a
I feel
professional.
I just want to
Yeah,
act.
yeah. Well, and it is that thing, right? Of like, do I want to do it on camera? I'm coming from a theater program. What does it need to adjust in the frame? You said it all perfectly. But if I'm coming to the studio, Susanna, and I'm like, I really want to pursue this career at whatever point in my life I've decided to. Like to Susanna's point, we've had people come in their 60s and say, I've always wanted to try this, and it's wonderful. How does this kind of help lay the groundwork for the rest of the courses, knowing that, you know, you teach our most master classes at the studio as artistic director?
Yeah. So I think something that's kind of shocking for folks is the idea that, you know, there is a set kind of parameter around the theory of acting. Like there's actually kind of a fixed amount of theory. Like there's a certain amount of ingredients and tools that you need to develop and use in order to build a performance, which is one of the core concepts that we are emphasizing in every level of training at the studio. So actually in IOC, you are going to be introduced to the most basic elements of that theory: text analysis, you know, what questions you need to ask yourself in order to build a performance. And then, you know, those don't actually change throughout the rest of our levels of training. We just investigate them more deeply. There's a little additional theory that we put in at the core 2 level in terms of scene structure, and you know, it's a bit more complex. It's taking you further into analyzing writing and story, which isn't necessary at the beginner level. But you know, basically at IOC, we're going to introduce you to the most helpful tools, and then every level of training after that is just deepening our understanding, deepening how we use those tools, going further into detail, into complexity, as well as the other core concept, which is how do you locate a performance within the frame. Again, we're just going to deepen that every level of training after. So, you know, we have had a lot of folks come and take IOC, and they are maybe returning to acting. They did it in high school. You know, they were worried about it. They didn't pursue it. They went and they got a BA, or you know, they trained elsewhere. They became marketers, or they worked in communications, or they became sports doctors, or whatever, or lawyers. And then they come back later and they're like, oh, I still, that acting thing is kind of haunting me. And so they jump back in, and we've had a fair amount, I would say, of our master level actors right now actually started at the studio with us in IOC and have been training consistently over the years and are now at our master level. These are people who have secured representation. They're now working with agents. They are booking professional jobs, they are series regulars, they are guest stars, they are supporting leads, they are working actors.
Yeah.
And it's because IOC allowed them a kind of safe, not a huge commitment in terms of time or finances, space in which to test whether or not this acting bug that they still had was something they could do and they felt like they needed to do. So again, it provides a space to explore your curiosity. The training program in IOC also helps set you up to understand our approach at AAS to how we come at acting. So it immediately sets you up to understand what we're then going to teach in Core Acting 1 or Core Acting 2. You know, different studios use different approaches. Fundamentally, as I said, there's a very like, it's not like every studio has a different understanding of acting. Like they might use different words,
Yeah.
but you know, to effectively act, you have to do the same things. So you know, it just allows, IOC kind of sets you up perfectly. If you want to continue training with Armstrong Acting Studios, you will understand very easily as you go up the levels, like what we're talking about, right? That being said, if you have trained elsewhere and you're coming in at a more intermediate level, you're going to be able to really quickly identify, oh, okay, they're calling it this, my other director called it that, but it's the same thing underneath.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, I mean, Susanna, you can appreciate this. I know sometimes, or oftentimes, I'll have an actor who's been with us from the IOC level. They're now training at a master level, and it's that reminder of I have to do it myself. I'm sure you can appreciate this as an actor. Right, I have to just go back to the basics sometimes. Sometimes it gets, so advanced with the work. You're like, what's this foundational element I totally forgot to flag today?
Yeah.
So for me, it's a really great groundwork. Like you're just laying that foundation because it's so common to always point back to that language, to those elements that Susanna's referring to.
We're demystifying
So yeah,
acting is, right?
exactly.
Like you can, I kind of caution people sometimes around watching too many interviews where actors or directors talk about like presence or magic, or they use these terms that kind of make it seem like some people are born with God's gift of acting, and if you weren't, then you can't do it. But actually, presence is something you can teach. Presence is a different word to talk about charging the atmosphere, charging the connective tissue between yourself and someone else in the frame. It's another word to talk about having a complex inner life. I think acting is probably, I don't know what other profession except maybe being a politician has such a public facing idea of what it is, versus when you actually learn the skill of it, you'll see that like, oh, like people have a lot of ideas about what acting is without actually knowing what are the mechanics and what is that toolkit that is being used. So IOC is the first chance to be introduced to the toolkit, the actor's toolkit, and demystify what it is that you think acting is versus like what are the actual things that go into making a performance, and that can be quite surprising.
Oh, totally. This media-based world, it's really easy as an audience to look at your screen and go, oh, okay, I get what that is, and listen to an actor interview and go, okay, and these vague terms that you're throwing around about, what does it even mean to be present in the frame and not be thinking about your lines and all this stuff. I think we really pull back the curtain. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very good point.
real Wizard of Oz moment.
Yeah,
That,
honestly, and it's everyone going, oh,
oh,
everybody is on the same page here.
yeah.
Now we are having this conversation because, I mean, our intro courses run a bit more regularly in terms of their start times just because they are shorter. And we find ourselves at a nice juncture as we are in the, oh my goodness, middle of our winter term right now, which means we have another round, another opportunity before our winter term closes out to try the introduction to on-camera course, both in the youth sectors and in the adult sectors. So I will just touch on the youth, and then Susanna, if you want to chat for our 19 plus, which I'm glad you brought up. 19 plus sounds it's young, but that's the minimum age, and then it's
And it's
beyond.
sky's the limit,
The
really.
sky's the limit, really. But here we are on March 10th. So March 23rd to May 4th, we have our 13 to 15 and 16 to 18. So that starts in, oh goodness, just under 2 weeks, which is kind of why we wanted to speak with you guys today, as spots are filling and it's an opportunity for the youth there to try that at a 6-week, 6-session course, taking you to early May. And then for the adults.
Yeah, for the adults, we have sessions starting March 17th to April 28th. We have another session starting March 25th to April 29th, as well as April 15th to May 1st. Some of those are daytime classes, some of those are evening classes. So I highly recommend jumping on to our website. You can click through in our bio link to just see what is the session that works best for you. And of course, we will also have summer programming up very soon. You can also inquire, hey, I can't start training till June. What do you guys have? But as Sarah said, we run our IOC training programs like much more frequently throughout the year because they are in 3-week sessions.
Yeah, exactly. So, a week today, our next one starts where we're just kind of throwing this out there for those of you who might get inspired to try something new as the snow hopefully thaws. But to Susanna's point, we're here to help, whether you want to give us a call. Everything, our website link, to your point, is in our bio here on our Instagram page. We have our phone number. You can call into the office. We're here to help talk through it. We can talk through if you need to send footage to see where you should be placed right now, or just to answer any further questions if, we're going to get to questions that were sent into us, but if we don't cover something here today, our office manager, James, is happy to help talk through it with you. So we got some questions.
We do.
I will read this first one to you, Susanna, as was sent in so that we're saying it clearly.
All right.
Being accurate to what was asked. I know we asked the audience yesterday. So Susanna, how do you get into character while still holding on to reality? This is the question.
Oh, okay. Wow, this could be a whole live unto itself. I'll try to answer briefly. So I think one of the things we can demystify a little bit about acting is I think a lot of people come into the idea of acting that they're going to become someone else. They're going to get into character and they're going to kind of 100% invest in this idea of becoming, transforming into someone else who does different things. And in the sense the question says holding on to reality. So I think something we can, I guess a myth I'd like to break down is that rather than thinking character is a part of acting, right? Who am I playing? It's definitely one of the tools in the toolkit and something you need to consider. But fundamentally, acting is based on actions. So to act, right? To put something into action. That's what we call acting. So we don't call it, being someone else. We don't call it charactering. We call it acting. And so the fundamental thing that an actor needs to learn is how to put actions into space that cause effects, which move the story forward or don't. But when we come at acting that way, our focus shifts from the idea of turning into someone else and turning our awareness towards what are the things my character wants and how are they trying to get them. And so instead we treat it more like a chess game, right? Oh, I'm going to move my piece here and then they move here. Okay, now I have to respond, right? So it's much more like a game of chess, a game of tennis, a boxing match. So rather than thinking of becoming someone else, our focus is actually on what we're doing. And character, character, and this is a more advanced kind of term, it doesn't really exist in a sense. It's that people judge other people based on what they do, right? So we decide who someone is based on whether we think they do good actions or bad actions. Mm-hmm. And that really says a lot about what we like in the world, right? So I think when an actor relieves themselves of the pressure of trying to become someone else, because what we're doing is fake, right? You're not going to turn into the Hulk, right? You're not going to turn into the Little Mermaid. Hopefully, you're not going to turn into the serial killer. Instead, you are going to choose, okay, in this scene, I am trying to intimidate that other person. That's what my character needs to do. They're doing that because they want to have power over this person. So, how I might yell at them, I might bully them, but I'm going to choose actions that when the audience sees them, they go, oh, that's the villain. I don't like that person. That's a bad person. But you can't really play bad person, right? But you can actively play actions of intimidation or bullying or begging or forgiving, right? And then, we'll decide, something about that person. But I think that is a great question because it shows a difference in the perception of what we think an actor does versus what the actor is actually doing on the inside.
Yeah.
And you can connect to actions, that your performance is a series of actions. It's a lot easier to hold firm with who you are and to be able to come out of your work, in and out of your work. That being said, there are still closing practices, grounding practices, rituals that actors do if they're working on extremely disturbing content or content that is very difficult for them. That would fall kind of in, self-care and, not necessarily the fundamentals of acting, but the adjacent strategies that are important to have if you are pursuing this professionally.
Yeah, I like
It's a great question.
said that because I'm sure everyone felt it like just as I felt when Susanna said that. It actually makes it feel a lot simpler when you frame it that way. Instead of this like I wave a magic wand, you become a different person, and we lose reality to the point that the fire alarm goes off in the middle of your audition and we're so in it we don't realize there's a fire. That does not exist, right? We are
No,
here in this world.
it's not safe, right? I mean, imagine if you're fight scene, you have an extremely detailed fight choreography, so you can never be 100% the character. You have to maintain 5 to 10% of actor awareness to make sure you're on your mark, to make sure you're executing your choreography, to make sure you're not in the other actor's light. This belief that you totally submerge yourself in the character is I think ill-founded, and I actually think like a dangerous belief to perpetuate, because I don't want to be on screen. I don't want to be in a fight scene with someone who's 100% given over to their character, because that's actually not their job. Their job is to make sure that they keep me as the other actors safe in our work.
Yeah.
But it's a great question. A question we had too, I'll pitch this one to you, Sarah, is will we get individual feedback on our work in Introduction to On Camera?
It's a great question, and the simple answer is yes. In all of our courses, whether it be IOC or any of the other courses, you will always get individual feedback, but the benefit, going back to one-on-one versus group training, is that yes, it'll be tailored to you in the take you just did, but number one, if you're listening to other people's feedback, you're still learning from what they're being told because you just watched their performance in the frame. So yeah, it's individual to people, but it can always be brought back to your own learning experience. But additionally, in the class, we always bring it back to the collective learning that we're doing, especially at this foundational level where, we can look at an individual note, that's about you, Susanna, but then what can we all take away from that note so that everybody's benefiting collectively? So yes, you get individual, and you will also get a lot of, the tools thrown at you, and then seeing how they work in the frame is what informs the individual feedback that you get, right?
It'll be, of course. You get verbal feedback, and you'll also get the feedback of performing the scene and getting notes right away that you can try to implement on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Another skill, like, can you take a new direction in the moment you get it, right? How do you change your performance in real time when the director, the instructor is asking for you to try something different, right? So you get both feedback that you can sit with for a couple days, as well as feedback that you can try to apply right on the spot.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. This was a fun one. I actually like this question. Susanna, it was asked, will IOC focus on different acting methods? So I'll give an example, whether people know what these methods are or not, like Meisner, method acting, there's a million, or just on camera specific techniques. So do we focus on different acting methods or just on camera specific techniques?
It's a great question. I would again go back to our approaches to training in all our levels at Armstrong are a focus on building a performance. So how do I act? And then specifically, how do I locate that performance to its maximum effect in the frame, because this is on camera acting. So we're going to look at technique for both of those things. We are not of a specific lineage of training, like the specificity around Meisner training, which can have an amazing impact on an actor's ability to be spontaneous and access different aspects of their range. If anything, you could say we like many people in the modern understanding of acting are coming from some very basic tools that like Stanislavski introduced in terms of given circumstances, the who, what, when, where, why of a scene. But those are kind of just fundamental. It's pretty impossible to build a performance that is driven by narrative without engaging with those things. So I would say that's a pretty basic thing that any school of acting is going to be using. So that would be our most foundational approach. But we are not looking at specifics like a Meisner technique. We do have a course embodying action and impulse, which is based around spontaneity and play and getting out of your head. That's taught by Stephen McCarthy. It has some Meisner-esque things. I have used Meisner-esque things in my training, but the reason we have a more open approach is because we have an incredible diverse roster of faculty. And essentially every single actor or client or person who walks into the studio to train is going to have things that work for them that are different than their peers. And so any actor is going to have to find, the teacher, the coach, the approach that is right for them. So I think the benefit of having not such a specific lineage that we're practicing is that we can appeal to more people's sense of what works for them, especially at a beginner level where you might not be ready to do like Meisner, right? You'd be like, I've never even talked in front of people. I'm not ready to improvise without dialogue and kind of go to the places that Meisner pushes actors towards. So there's opportunities for more specific pedagogies or approaches, but again, for me, the best, most basic, fundamental toolkit is one that is not as niche as some of these training approaches. Some people bring up like method acting, which it just doesn't exist for me. It's just not a useful pedagogy because ultimately, again, I don't want you to be 100% another person. That's actually not your job. Your job is to tell the story and to do that effectively and artistically and creatively and safely. The problem with method acting is you're playing a murderer. What, are you going to go kill people? Like, no, you're not.
I don't know. Yeah.
No. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about the studio, right? Like, and so people that don't know our studio, we are not teaching one specific thing. To Susanna's point, we have a very diverse faculty with everyone with their own toolkit, and we throw our tools and you guys see what works for you. And we just ask that you subscribe to it when you're, trying it out for the first time, because sometimes it can feel like a bit of a wonky start, right?
Yeah. Instructors might be like, this is an Uta Hagen exercise, or this is like they all have diverse training that they're bringing in. And I think offering glimpses of specific pedagogies is helpful if that clicks for an actor and they go, oh, okay, yeah, I got to go to New York this summer and do this intensive with, Uta Hagen's Lineage Studio. Then that's cool, right? But it's also not necessary if it doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
Final question, which is a great one to kind of sum everything up. In Introduction to On Camera, will we cover how to audition on camera, prepare self-tapes, and work with casting directors?
Great question, because it's three-pronged. So, yeah, the first being, will you learn how to audition on camera? Absolutely. It is 100% audition style, meaning we are not working in a mock set environment scene study where you're working off a partner, you're working off a reader. Again, you don't even need to know what these things are that I'm saying because you'll learn them in the course if you've no idea. But we are working in audition style because as much as we all love being on set, often our job is to be professional auditioners, and that can bring its own set of challenges when you are not actually there with the booking on the day with the cast on set. So we work in audition style, and you 100% will learn how to, as a result, do an on-camera audition. Now, as an offshoot to that, for the second question, which was, do you learn how to do a self-tape, which is mostly, to Susanna's point earlier, what we do in 2025. The answer is yes, because doing a self-tape is doing the on-camera audition, just you are doing it not in front of a live casting director, you're sending it to them. So it's kind of one and the same, which is lovely. And we do kind of cover those technical aspects that come along with the self-tape. So you are equipped to, if you're doing it at home, or, you come back and you shoot it in studio, they both kind of feed into each other and both are covered, which brings me to the final question, which is interesting, which was, do we learn to work with casting directors, right, Susanna?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question, because the reality is, as actors, we don't directly work with casting directors in a self-tape reality. I'm not there necessarily in the room with the casting director working with me, but even then, if I think about pre-pandemic or a callback now, all that is them throwing a redirect at me, just like your instructor would do. A redirect being, like Susanna was saying, redirecting the scene. Can you take it in a different direction in the moment, right when somebody asks you to? So yes, we are teaching you how to take redirects as if it's live audition. In terms of working with casting directors, we're often sending self-tapes. So the reality is that's not where we need to put our focus, because it's not what we need to do as actors in this active industry.
Yeah. And I think one thing I would add to that is, as the AD, I watch a lot of tape submissions from actors. And, something that I take for granted because of working at Armstrong is how proficient our actors are at making sure their self-tape submission looks good, sounds good, and is properly framed. I see a lot of submission come in, and people, you kind of don't know the basics of how to set up a good frame, how to tape a submission, where should they be standing, what should the light look like, what's with the background. So, if you are planning on submitting yourself, even if you're a dancer, a singer, looking for hosting opportunities, or you have to do any sort of video submission, this training program also just gets you the kind of industry standard of what that should look like, how you should set it up. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to go spend $1 gazillion on equipment, but there's sometimes I watch a submission where the acting is great, the setup is awful. And I really think, oh my gosh, like I want to get this person in the studio just so they can work out these details to make sure the product they're sending out looks as good as possible. Because it can be really distracting if the framing is way off, the lighting is terrible, you can't hear the person. And I just know there's such little adjustments we could make to make sure that casting isn't distracted by those things. So again, just like translatable skills for, if you're podcasting, if you're, if you're doing live stuff like that, just, we live in the world of digitized content. So, yeah, I would say definitely check out Introduction to On-Camera Acting if you're curious about acting, if you're looking to build confidence, if you're trying to make your tapes or your online content better, more approachable, look better. It really does have something for everyone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just off of, asking about casting directors, that's directly kind of connected to our industry itself, which is, we're talking a lot about the craft today, and there's obviously a business. We do have 2 upcoming agent panels in the year 2025. So for anybody who, as Susanna's speaking, all I'm thinking is we are just here to, yes, demystify, but support you. There's no roadmap to the work or to this business if that's what you choose to pursue. So, if you're more curious about industry things, we do offer that as a resource. We have a workshop series. Those will all be on our site as well once we finalize those dates. But we have 2 coming up this year. We are here to help. Like I said, visit our site. Everything that we spoke about in terms of dates up there. Give us a call if you have any further questions. But hopefully we were able to kind of answer the basics of IOC, Introduction to On-Camera Performance. And thank you, Susanna. It's such a pleasure to hop on, especially with our artistic director, to talk about, kind of our essential course here at the studio that a lot of people start at and launches them into their careers or another aspect of their life.
Absolutely. Anyway, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Sarah,
Always.
and forward to seeing a bunch of new fresh faces in IOC.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you all for joining on this Monday afternoon. And I hope to see you guys at the studio soon. Bye, Susanna.
Bye.
Thank you.